Sigmund Freud was born to a middle-class Jewish family in 1856 in what is now Czech Republic. Freud had a deep love for his mother. She called him her golden Sigi. He also had an equally deep hostility towards his father. When he was 4 years old, Freud's family moved to Vienna, Austria, where he would live and work for most of the remainder of his life. Freud became a doctor in order to marry. When Freud was 26, he fell madly in love with a 21-year-old woman named Martha Bernays, and they became engaged 2 months later. As a poor student living with his parents, Freud's science lab job did not pay enough to support a family. Freud gave up his scientific career to become a doctor. He spent 3 years training at the Vienna General Hospital. After 4 years of waiting, Freud and Bernays were married on September 14, 1886. His daughter, Anna Freud, was also popular as a psychoanalyst. She began her career influenced by her father's theories. She was far from simply living in her father's rather long shadow. Anna Freud made important contributions of her own to psychology. She founded child psychoanalysis and summarized the ego's defense mechanism in her book, The Ego and the Mechanisms of Defense. This was published in 1936. His legacy did not end there. Lucian Freud, Freud's grandson from his fourth child, was a prominent painter of the 20th century. It isn't often that an entire school of thought can be attributed to a single individual. In Freud's case, his theories served as the foundation for a school of psychology that would quickly rise to become a dominant force during the early years of the science of the mind and behavior. Freud's early education and work was focused on neurology. After studying the sexual organs of the eel via dissection, he moved to comparing the brains of vertebrates and invertebrates. For 6 years, Freud dissected the brains of frogs, crayfish, and lampreys, describing the medulla oblongata and other than oblique components of the brain and nervous system. He also made important contribution towards the discovery of the neuron. After graduating from the University of Vienna, Freud began working at Vienna General Hospital and collaborating with the fellow physician Joseph Breuer. Breuer was an advocate of treating patients via hypnosis, which intrigued Freud. One of Breuer's patients, Bertha Pappenheim, referred to as Anna O, seemed to recall unpleasant memories only when under the influence of hypnotic suggestion. Breuer was trying to cure Anna O of her hysteria. Back in those days, hysteria was seen as a condition in which the patient exhibits physical symptoms. It will involve paralysis, convulsions, hallucinations, loss of speech, and so on. So this is all without an apparent physical cause. So Breuer would hypnotize her and she was able to talk about things which she could not remember in her conscious state. Her symptoms were relieved afterwards. This became known as the talking cure. Freud traveled to Paris to learn more from other physicians about the technique of using hypnosis. But when he returned to Vienna in 1886 and opened his practice, he began to step away from hypnosis. He understood that patients simply relaxing on his couch seemed to produce a similar recall effect. The 1899 publication of his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, established the basic groundwork for the theories and ideas that formed psychoanalysis. In his book, Freud believed that people dreamed for a reason. Why? To cope with problems the mind is struggling with subconsciously and can't deal with consciously. Dreams were fueled by a person's wishes. Freud believed that by analyzing our dreams and memories, we can understand them, which can subconsciously influence our current behavior and feelings. Freud named the mind's energy libido. മനസ്സിനുള്ളിൽ ആ എനർജിയാണ് ലിബിഡോ എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. And said that the libido needed to be discharged to ensure pleasure and prevent pain. If it wasn't released physically, the mind's energy would be discharged through dreams. The book explained Freud's belief that dreams were simply wish fulfillment and that the analysis of dreams could lead to treatment for neurosis. He concluded that there were two parts to a dream: the manifest content, which was the obvious sight and sound in the dream. നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന ചിത്രങ്ങളും സൗണ്ടൊക്കെയാണ് മാനിഫെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്ന ഇമേജസ്. അതാണ് നമ്മുടെ മാനിഫെസ്റ്റ് കോണ്ടന്റ്. ആൻഡ് ദ ലേറ്റന്റ് കോണ്ടന്റ്, അതെന്താണ്? ഇറ്റ് വാസ് വാട്ട് ദ ഡ്രീം വാസ് ആക്ച്വലി ഹൈഡിങ്. യഥാർത്ഥമായിട്ടുള്ള റീസൺ, ഈ സ്വപ്നം കാണാനുള്ള, സ്വപ്നങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഒരു വിഷ് ഫുൾഫിൽമെന്റ് ആണെന്നാണല്ലോ ഫ്രോയിഡ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് യഥാർത്ഥ ജീവിതത്തിൽ നടക്കുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ മനസ്സതിനെ ഒരു സ്വപ്നത്തിലൂടെ കാണിച്ചു തരികയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന ചിത്രങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ് മാനിഫെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്ന സംഭവങ്ങൾ. ശരിക്കുള്ള റീസൺ എന്താണ് അതിന്റെ ഈ സ്വപ്നം കാണുന്ന റീസൺ? അതാണ് നമ്മുടെ ലേറ്റന്റ് കണ്ടന്റ്. അത് ഒളിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പൊ അത് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഒരു സൈക്കോ അനലിസ്റ്റിന്റെ ജോലി. Between 1915 and 1938, Freud was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Medicine 12 times and the Nobel in Literature once. Yet, he was never awarded any of them. His critics charged that psychoanalysis was an unproven practice. When the Nazis invaded Austria, many of Freud's books were burned, along with those by other famous thinkers. What progress we are making, Freud told a friend. In the Middle Ages, they would have burnt me. Nowadays, they are content with burning my books. Freud and his daughter, Anna, were both interrogated by the Gestapo before his friend Mary Bonaparte was able to secure their passage to England. Bonaparte also tried to rescue Freud's 4 younger sisters, but was unable to do so. All 4 women later died in Nazi concentration camps. Freud had been a heavy cigar smoker all his life. In 1939, after his cancer had been deemed inoperable, Freud asked his daughter to help him commit suicide. The doctor administered 3 separate doses of morphine, and Freud died on September 23, 1939.